The month of May was one of the best that I've had in a long time. Not in terms of overall sales, although they did go up slightly compared to the past few months. And at the end of the video, we are going to break all that down. We'll go over the final profit and just talk about how each individual platform performed and what's going on with each of those. But just in general, last month, I was feeling a lot better. I was feeling great myself. Sourcing was going amazing. I was finding a lot of BOLO brands that have been on my list for a long time, new to me brands, and I've also really been focused on trying to improve my style-based sourcing skills, so there was a lot of that going on as well. Because of that, I do have a lot of great sales to share. We're going to talk about some of the best of the month. We're also going to talk about some of the ones that didn't go so well and the lessons learned from those. All right, let's start off with some of the highest price sales of the month. We're going to start on the lower end and work our way up to the highest. The first one we're going to talk about are these Reese military flare pants. They were $30. They were tall, long, which I've always said that I feel like when they are the taller inseam, they tend to sell a lot better, which is why I decided to give these a try, even though comps didn't look so great when I looked them up at the store. There was just not that many sold that showed up on the eBay research app, but I thought I could make them work because they had that military look to them. I also used the keyword sailor for them because of those buttons. They ended up selling in 7 days on Poshmark for $45. After all of the fees, I was left with earnings of $35.41, and I paid about $7 or $8 for those pants. The next one is also a Poshmark sale. I don't know how to say this brand, but it's something like Hyacinth House. It was a top that was floral embroidered. It was chambray, had puff sleeves, and I used the keywords boho and peasant. I've sold this brand a handful of times now, and it always performs really well for me. It sold in 24 days for $50, which is a great price for a little blouse like this. And the earnings after all of the fees for me was $39.34, and this I must have paid like $5 or $6 for. On Poshmark, again, I guess it was a Poshmark kind of high sales month. It was these pair of Kurt Geiger stiletto heels. They were pointed toe, they were black and red, and they had a heart print. So very interesting shoes, which is what Kurt Geiger usually makes. Very unique, wacky, uncommon shoes. It is a solid brand. This is my second or third time picking it up. These ended up selling in 15 days for me for $54. After fees, I was left with $42.49. This time on eBay, we have this vintage Victoria's Secret maxi slip dress. It was a gold color, it was sheer, and it was chiffon. I was hoping these kind of dresses still did well. Years ago, when I barely started reselling, Victoria's Secret slip dresses were all the rage, and they seem to still be holding up really well. It sold on eBay for $72.82, and that does include shipping. So after the shipping cost, the fees, and also a promo fee, I was left with $47.43, and this must have been $5 at the thrift store. Next, back on Poshmark again, we have this dress that was by the brand For Love and Lemons. It was this mini dress. It had ruffles everywhere, and it definitely fit the coquette cottage romantic aesthetic, so I put all of those keywords there. As soon as I saw this dress, I knew that I wanted it just by the look of it. I didn't care what brand it was. The price was decent. It fit all of those aesthetics that are trending really heavy right now. I knew that I was going to take it, but when I saw the brand, I was even that much more inclined to take it. It sold in 5 days for a total of $63. After all of the fees, I was left with $49.57. This dress must have been like $7 or $8. Next, on eBay, we have these boots. I love seeing boots in my high price sales because it used to be what held up my sales very nicely every month, and now they're kind of more rare for me. I love this boot brand, Lucchese. They were the Spirit line, which I think is like their lower end brand, but it seems to still do well. They were Western boots, brown leather, and the keywords I used was boho and cowgirl. I was so surprised they didn't price these up at the store. They were like $12. I sold them in 18 days for $87.80. After all of the fees, the shipping label, and everything, I was left with $49.91. If this were just Lucchese, not the sub brand, they would have sold for a lot more, but still a good sell. Next, on eBay again, I sold this Johnny Was short sleeve button down shirt. The keywords that I used for this one was boho, hippie, and 70s because it just gave that vibe to me, just colorful with the floral embroidered everywhere. It was a very beautiful top. I guess last month was my Johnny Was month because I was finding a lot of it. Well, I found like 6 or 7 pieces, but that's a lot for Johnny Was. On the screen, I'll put up all of the Johnny Was tags because they do vary a lot, and it's important to be able to recognize each one of them because these are money makers. They sell pretty consistently. They don't take that long to sell. All kinds of stuff. It doesn't matter. Pants, jeans, shirts, dresses, everything sells really well by this brand. As long as you're not paying that much, I think that it's something you can pick up confidently knowing that it's going to sell for a good price. This shirt sold in 3 days for $64.63. After all of the fees and shipping costs, I was left with $42.39. And then we have another eBay sale, and it was these Jenny Kane flat strappy sandals. I used Bohemian and Gladiator to describe these. This is only my second time finding it. The first time it was a dress, and it also sold for a high price point even though it was just a simple non-assuming dress. And that's the thing with this brand, it's so easy to pass it up. I had actually passed right by these sandals already. I went through the whole store and I was back in that area looking through shirts when I looked above me at the shoe rack and just wanted to see what those sandals were about because they were Gladiator and they looked to be like a high quality leather, and to my surprise they were this brand. So I had already passed right by them. So make sure you do look at the brand tag and try to remember it. I'll also put the one for the clothing. It's like a black rectangular one. So easy to pass up, but is a great seller. These sandals sold in 30 days for $84.89. My final earnings after all the fees was $58.05. Then we have a Poshmark sale, and it was these Jeffrey Campbell platform boots. They were red leather, and the keywords that I used was Y2K, retro, rave, and chunky. I showed these boots in a recent thrift haul, and in that video I told y'all that I almost did not get these boots because when I saw them up on the shelf, they just looked like cheap Amazon shoes to me. But I decided to look at the inside tag anyway, and to my surprise they were this Havana Lass Jeffrey Campbell brand. So now I'm starting to check all shoes, even if they look like they could be cheap shoes. As soon as I pick them up, I can tell if they're super lightweight compared to what they look like. So if they're like platform chunky boots, but I pick them up and they're super lightweight, I already know they're Amazon shoes. But if I pick them up and they feel sturdy, substantial, then I look into them further and try to check out the brand because you just never know apparently. These sold in 11 days and they sold for $85. The earnings was $66.88 after all of the fees, and I paid $4 or $5 for those boots, so that was a great profit. Now we get to the highest price sale of all, and it was the Sneaks Icon Hybrid sneaker heels. They were suede and mesh, and the 2 keywords that I threw in there at the end was retro and sport. This is one of the best sales I've had in a very long time. As soon as I saw these shoes up on the shelf, I instantly recognized what they were. Sneaks is a brand that was recently started by Sarah Blakely, who also makes Spanx. It is a fairly new brand, maybe just a couple years old, if that. So these are very rare right now. And from what I saw on the eBay research app, there are only a few have sold. There's not that much listed. So it seems like as soon as someone posts them, they sell. These sold in 3 days for me, and she paid a total of $313. That's shipping included. After all the fees and everything, I was left with $230. $30. I paid $20, $25 max for these, so that also was a great profit in the end. If all my sales could be high price sales like the ones I just shared, then I'd be in a really good spot right now, but that's not the way reselling works. In the mix, there's also lower end sales, so let's talk about a few of those. It was this Jordan Nike toddler t-shirt jersey. I put toddler in there twice. That was unnecessary. 3 T-tops bundle set 4-piece lot. These kind of sales are not the highest profit, but they're pure profit because these are all things that my son no longer wears. So I usually just put them in bundles and they usually sell within a day or two. I like these kind of sales because I got all this stuff at the thrift store myself for like $1 or $2 on half off day. My son wears them a ton, and then I get to bundle them up and help another mom out, because if you have babies, then you know that kids grow fast and you're constantly buying new clothing for them, and finding a bundle of essential things like this priced way below what you would get them at the store is a great thing. So I really like posting these things and I love these kind of sales. This one sold in one day for $13. My earnings was $9.85, and as I said, all pure profit with that one. Then we have this eBay sale. It was this Victorian puff sleeve blouse. It was cream, pink, floral, peplum, button up. A very pretty top. I got it based on style, but I hated to see that it was actually Shein when I got home. It didn't say it on the brand tag near the neckline. It was actually in the material tag. That's where it said Shein. I didn't notice that until I got home, and I really don't like picking up that brand no matter how good the style is. I usually pass it up, mainly just because I don't like the ethics of the company. I just don't vibe with it. But since I already had it, I went ahead and listed it, and it ended up not doing that bad. So thinking of it now, I may start considering picking up Shein items based on style, because the shirt is already made, it's already bought and donated, so giving it a second chance maybe is not a bad idea. It didn't sell that fast. It took 52 days, but in the end it sold for a total of $23.63 after all of the fees. I was left with $11.64, and I paid maybe $2 for this top, so not the best days and not the best profit, but something in the end. Next up on Poshmark, we have this intro corduroy jacket. I love that it was color block with the green and the brown. It looked rustic. It had raw hem at the bottom. It had the collar, the buttons. This jacket actually sold in a bundle with some J. Crew lightweight shorts that I got at the bins and some Madewell sandals that I paid like $3 or $4 for. So if I divide that evenly into all three items, then it comes out to $16.33 for the jacket minus all of the fees. My final earnings was $12.85. I paid like $4 for it. So when you look at it like that, it's not the best flip alone, but as a whole, the bundle sale was not that bad because I didn't pay that much for any of the items. Next on Depop, we have this embroidered boho peasant blouse. It was linen, it was navy, and it had gold embroidery. So I thought it was a beautiful shirt. The brand didn't matter much, which is why I put it all the way to the end of the title on Depop. I picked it up based on style, based on material, and I paid like $3 for it. It took 16 days to sell. My earnings from Depop was $19.39, but at that time I was still buying pirate ship labels. So in the end, I was left with about $13 in earnings. Not that bad. This is something that I would pick up again if I could find it cheap. Next on eBay, we have this Sundance tunic top. It was a long roll-tab sleeve kind of top, very plain. The item didn't photograph that well. So when I relisted this item, I did use AI to come up with a stock photo because I couldn't find one online. So that seemed to help with this top. That's not something I do with everything. AI stock photos, I don't like the look of them and they just take up too much time. But I thought this one really needed it, so I went ahead and did that. And it sold shortly after, but it did take a total of 171 days. It sold for $26.71 and my final earnings was $15.46. This is something that I definitely would would not pick up again. It was just too plain. Now let's move on to some of the items that sold the fastest for me last month. We're going to start off with the ones that sold in a couple days, then one day, and then we'll get to some same day sales. First up, we have this Anthropologie mini dress. The thing with this one that made me want to get it was that it was that eyelet. It was white, and I knew that I could use the keyword cottagecore. I also threw in there boho and summer. I've sold this exact kind of dress, but I think it was the brand Maeve, which is also by Anthropologie, and that one also performed really well. So since these two dresses sold, I have been on the hunt for similar ones since, and I do find a lot of white eyelet dresses, but the brand never convinces me. It's just not that notable, and I don't feel confident picking it up, even though the style is there, if the brand isn't there. Sold in 2 days for $34. Earnings after fees was $26.75. The next fast sale was on eBay, and it was these Varley double soft wide leg sweatpants. The keywords I used was relax, streetwear, athleisure, and lounge. All very great keywords. If you don't know this brand already, this is another one to remember, because I think in winter you'll probably see it a lot. They make really good sweaters and really good sweatpants apparently, because this one sold pretty fast in the summer. That's great. It sold in 2 days for I was gonna say 86. It sold for $56.22, and my final earnings was $34.53. This must have been a $5 pickup, so that was a great turnaround there. Next, on eBay again, we have this Renaissance blouse. I love that it was a plus size. It was 2X and also had the bell sleeves. I used the keyword at the end there, whimsy goth. So all of those keywords put together, I think, helped this shirt sell pretty quickly. Renaissance, peasant, and whimsy goth. This was by the brand Scarlet Darkness, which I always pick up as long as I can get for like $3 or $5. It's not always the highest flip, but because you can use so many great keywords with their items, it usually sells in a good time frame. This one sold in 1 day, and they paid $37.41 after all of the fees. I was left with $21.75 for that shirt. Next, on Poshmark, here we have this brand again, Hyacinth House. It was this relaxed shift dress, white floral embroidered, and then in the end I threw in there coastal and summer. So this one I did take a gamble with, mainly because it was priced at $12 at the thrift store, and then when I did comps, it didn't look that well. There wasn't that many sold comps on eBay, and then Poshmark, it didn't look that convincing either. So I was kind of going back and forth, mainly because of the price. If it was a lot cheaper, like $5 or something, I wouldn't have thought about it that much. But because it was a larger size, because it was in great condition, because we're in the season for it, because this brand continues to perform so well for me, I thought I'd give it a try, and I'm really glad I decided to. It sold in just 1 day for $30. My final earnings was $23.60. So I managed to only double my money with this one, but in 1 day, that is not that bad at all. Next fast sale was on Poshmark again, and it was this Intimately Free People sheer lace maxi skirt. It was dark red, it was tiered, it was floral, and I used the word whimsy goth to try to get more eyes on this skirt. This is another thing I was talking about in some of my most recent hauls. Free People skirts have been doing well for me all summer long, and this is just another example. The other ones that I showed in the videos were more boho style, western style. I was kind of thinking this was going to take a while to sell just because it was sheer. It wasn't the similar styles that I've been picking up, but I still managed to do really well with it. It sold in 1 day for $47. Final earnings was $36.98, and this must have been a $5 pickup. So great profit with that one. Next, again on Poshmark, I sold these Reef platform sandals, and I described them as chunky summer beach sling bag wedge. They sold the same day on Poshmark, and that just goes to show that this brand is still holding up really well. It's a brand that I've been picking up for many years. They do have like older styles. Their tags even look older. Those I try to avoid, but their newer brand label I pick up in sneakers, flats, these platform sandals. They all do really well. Although some thrift stores are starting to catch on to this brand, so they're pricing it up really high sometimes. So for that reason, I haven't been picking up as many, but when I can find it at a decent price, I do pick them up. These sold, as I said, same day for $30, and my final earnings was $23.60. I guess most of my highest price sales and fast sales happen on Poshmark. These next ones also sold there, and it was these Free People baggy barrel pants. Free People with the word barrel is just an instant pickup for me. This is one of those pieces that it's no comps needed, which I don't do that much nowadays. Ever since my business crashed last year, I started checking comps a lot more often just to make sure I can keep these items flipping and my store cycling through instead of just storing items here for a long time. But these I don't have to do comps. I know that I will always sell. So if I can find Free People pants where I could use any of these words, baggy, slouchy, oversized, utility, or cargo, it's most likely a definite pickup as long as the price is good. These sold same day, and they sold for $37. After all of the fees, I was left with $29.11 for those. Next fast sale was on eBay, and it was these Natural Life palazzo pants. They were wide leg, pull on, and I also threw in there at the end boho and artsy. These pants had everything I look for when I'm looking through the pants section: the ultra wide leg, the artsy, and they were a good brand. They sold same day for $44.83. After the fees, I was left with $21.92 for these pants. Next on Poshmark, we have these Vavea Mary Jane ballet flats. They were knit, square toe, and I said they were also minimalist and comfortable. This is another one where if the price is decent, I don't need to do comps because this brand has been going very strong for me for a really long time. And all of their styles, their sneakers, boots, sandals, and especially these knit flats, I only look up specific styles on eBay if the price is too high at the thrift store. I want to make sure I will be able to make a good enough profit, but if they're priced like $8 or below, I usually pick them up without looking them up. They sold same day for $48. My final earnings was $37.77. Okay, now we're going to go over some of the items that took way too long to sell. First up, we have a Poshmark sale, and it was these wide leg gauze pants. They were coral orange boho relaxed, lightweight pull on. I picked these up when I first started reselling clothing again towards the beginning. When I came back to the clothing game, I was really rusty with my sourcing skills and also with my listing skills. I didn't know that much. So now I'm going back to those older listings and updating them, adding new keywords that I've learned, and I feel like it's been helping. This shirt these pants actually sold in a bundle with this Johnny Was shirt. They both together sold for $49. Final earnings was $38.55. So in the end, maybe like a $19 sale with these pants. So even though they did take a long time to sell, not bad at all. And I think that Johnny Was top was also flawed. So a good bundle sale in the end. Next slow sale was on eBay, and it was these Hudson bootcut crop blue jeans. They were low rise, had the flat pockets in the back. When I first started selling clothes, this is something that I was picking up pretty often because they were doing really well for me. At least the first handful sold for about this price too, but a lot more quick than this one. I guess this one, what held it back was the size, the fact that it was crop. Maybe low rise wasn't helping it any, so I think that's why that one took a long time to sell. But nowadays I am skipping these flat pocket Hudson jeans. I may pick them up if they're priced really low, if they're not a crop style, if they're more of a high rise, and if they're boot cut. The next slow sale sale was on Poshmark, and it was these Vince Camuto Strappy Gladiator Chunky Block Heel Sandals. These kind of Vince Camuto sandals were my bread and butter during the summer a few years ago. I would pick them up no matter what. I didn't look up comps as long as they were price decent, and they would always sell for me, but not anymore. They're taking way too long. These took 409 days to sell. They sold for $20. My final earnings was $15.74. Nowadays, I skip right over all of these kind of sandals. Next, on eBay, we have these Puma sneakers. They were black suede lace up. I don't know what I was thinking when I picked these up because they are not that interesting. As you can tell by the title, this was a recent relist because the keyword normcore is not something I would use before, but it's something I recently learned. They took 467 days to sell, sold for $32.15. After all of the fees, I was left with $14.07 for these. Not something I would pick up nowadays. And the slowest sale on this list was on eBay. It was these platform combat boots. They were chunky, grunge, Y2K, lace up, hiker, platform, patent, and they still didn't sell with all of those amazing keywords. These I picked up back in the day when I would pick up lots of shoes just based on style. I thought these fit a lot of great aesthetics that would help it sell, and I guess it did, but what held it back the most, in my opinion, must have been that they were that cream white color. Anytime I pick up cream or white boots, they seem to sell on the slower end compared to if they were black or brown or another color like that. These took 556 days to sell. They sold for $36.59 and my final earnings was $14.82. Okay, now let's move into breaking down the final numbers for the month of May. I made a total of $6,719. My earnings after the platforms took out all of their fees, shipping costs, all of those things, was $4,482. So that's what they put into my bank. But if I deduct the cost of goods, which I go off of an average cost of goods, it would be $1,291. And so that means that my final take home, at least the gross profit, is $3,191. So overall, great numbers. I really do like for my final profit to stay at $3,000 or above. It has been dipping slightly these past few months, so I'm so glad that I'm back at that baseline, but obviously from here it's all about improving. Let's talk about the inventory breakdown and what went on there. I did list a total of 236 brand new listings in the month of May. In April too, I didn't do an income report that month, but I did also list around the 220 mark. So because of that, that's why all of my numbers have improved a bit. The daily average listings comes out to be 7 to 8 new items a day, and total items sold was 202, which comes out to about 6 to 7 sales every day, which is great. On average, all of those items sold for $33.27. The average cost of goods was $6.40, and then the average profit per item was $15.80. Again, all decent averages when it comes to the inventory. I really like my average profit to stay at around $15. When I go out sourcing and I do my math and do my numbers, I always go based on that 15 average profit mark. The average cost of goods has gone down slightly too, which I expected to eventually happen when I went on to also start selling clothes and shoes. When I was selling only shoes, that average cost of goods was always above $750 or so. So that's good that it's starting to go down now. Let's talk about how each platform went. I'll tell you the numbers for each one, and then I'll go and talk about in detail about changes and different things going on with each platform. So on Poshmark, which is always my best performing platform, I sold a total of 107 items for a total of $2,936. On eBay, I sold a total of 58 38 items, and that was for a total of $2,634. Depop was 34 total sales for $1,087, and then Mercari, I sold a total of 3 items for $122. So when it comes to Poshmark, I feel like it's the same as always in terms of my sales. They're pretty average there. They have been all year and this past month too. There's no big jump, no big dip, so that is great. For me on Poshmark, everything is business as usual. I know they changed how they do their algorithm. They're not doing it based on shares like they used to. So shares are supposed to be not as important, but I still do them every single day. I do what I've always done on Poshmark. I do still use List Perfectly for cross-listing my items, and they do have a sharing tool there too, but I don't like it. I just prefer to use Flip because it's just a lot better organized. I like how it shares my closet on the hour that I say, and it shares it in order. I just like it a lot better. So I do pay $9 a month for Flip still to take care of all of those things for me on Poshmark. I still do follows. I still do community shares. I'm not sure if that makes a difference. I haven't had the courage to turn off Flip to see if it does. So I'm still doing it, and I'm still seeing the same amount of sales that I've always seen on Poshmark. One thing that I have, or two things that I have seen that are different, is that I'm making a lot more bundle sales, as you've seen when we're going over the sales. Now that I'm also selling clothes and shoes, I do have a lot more of that going on, whereas before it was a little bit more rare. Another thing that I'm noticing is that there are a lot of counter offers on Poshmark now. It did happen before, but I feel like there's been a lot more lately. So because of that, I am pricing my items just a little bit higher. Before, I would come up with the base price that I want for an item after doing my research and looking up comps, usually on eBay. If you want to see how I do it, I'll leave a video linked for you. But I usually do my pricing research on eBay, come up with my price, add 20% to that price just to make room for offers and for people sending me offers, for discounts, coupons, and all those things. But now I'm doing the 20% plus like $2 to $3 more just to make room for all of that countering that's going on Poshmark, and that seems to be helping just a little bit for me to get the final price that I feel is right for an item. When it comes to eBay, it was struggling there for a little bit. I wasn't even hitting the 2K mark on some months, I think, or barely hitting it. This month it did go really well. We hit 2,600, which is great. I was looking at some of my older income report videos just to try to see like what is different, what went wrong, what am I doing here. I've just been struggling to kind of get back up after falling because the inventory that I was used to picking up was just no longer available to me. But yeah, I was seeing that on eBay I did hit 3K months sometimes, so I hope to get back to there soon, but it's probably not going to happen right now because summer slowdown. It's probably going to happen closer to Q4, so I'm looking forward to that. One big change I did make in the month of May on eBay is to switch my shipping options. I kept wondering why some people were messaging me asking me about my shipping costs. Why was it so high? Especially after USPS increased their prices slightly a few months ago, I think. People were messaging me asking me about my shipping. And even when you look at my ratings, my reviews, when it comes to shipping price, I don't have 5 stars. I have like 4.5 stars. So people really don't like my shipping prices. And I kept wondering why. Because I offered priority mail, and I also offered ground advantage mail, so they can choose whichever one they want. They want their item faster, they get priority. If they want it cheaper but maybe a little bit slower, they could choose ground advantage if they wanted. But everyone always chose priority mail. It was very rare that someone switched it to ground advantage. So I always wondered why they were complaining, if they had options. And then I decided to go into eBay and try to figure out what was going on. In the end, I figured out that I had priority mail as the primary shipping service. which is dumb because I made a video like, I don't know, maybe a year ago about tools on eBay. There I share how to set up your business policies, how to set up coupons, how to do templates and all sorts of things. It's a really informative video. So if you want to learn about all of those tools that eBay offers, you can go watch that, and it will also show you what I'm talking about here. You set up your business policies, and I didn't know there was a box you can tick to make Ground Advantage the primary shipping service. So now it's backwards. Mostly everything that I'm shipping out for eBay is Ground Advantage, and sometimes people will select priority mail instead. So they're getting a lot cheaper prices now, and I did see a big increase in sales when I made that change, at least initially, and then it started to slow down again. But I feel like that really helped my sales in May. So if you have priority mail as your primary shipping service, I would consider changing that, and to see how to change it, I'll leave that video linked with the timestamp so you can jump straight to that portion of the video in case you want to know how to switch around those business policies when it comes to shipping. Now, when it comes to Depop, just like Poshmark, I feel like it's just been steady all year long. I'm always around the 30 to 35 sales at the end of the month. I always hit around the 1K mark there as well. So nothing too drastic there changing. The only drastic thing that I always see on Depop, which happens almost every month, is that all of my sales come in all together all at once. So I can have like a few weeks with very slow sales, and then the next few weeks they just jump up drastically. So if you look at my sales chart there, my stats on my dashboard, you'll see that it says crazy things like your sales are up 70%, and then the next week, oh, they're down 50%. So they're drastic numbers like that. I'm not sure why it swings up and down so high, but in the end it always ends up good. So I don't panic since I know that's how it's been working for me for a while. And then the biggest change I made in May on Depop is that I switched over to Depop labels. If you watch my Depop tutorials, you'll see that I always use Pirate Ship for my labels, which is a third-party service, just because they were a lot cheaper there. So I was able to offer competitive shipping prices on Depop instead of using their labels. But I feel like it was time for a change because that was the case when I was selling heavy shoes and heavy boots. But now that I'm selling lightweight clothing, pants, and things like that, it's not the case anymore. The prices are pretty similar on Pirate Ship and with Depop labels. And also, since USPS increased their prices, it all kind of is about the same. But I didn't go in and make the change to Depop labels until I figured out that they were offering free shipping. They didn't announce it anywhere. I never saw any banner on the app. I never heard anyone on YouTube or on social media talking about Depop offering free shipping for buyers, and they pay for the shipping. I had customers messaging me asking me about it. Like, why aren't your items free shipping? Can I get free shipping? And I'm like, what are they talking about? So then I Googled it. Is Depop offering free shipping? And then I went into some Reddit threads, read all about it, and yes, they were in fact offering it. So I went in immediately and started to edit each of my listings and switch it over to Depop labels, because that's the only way you can take advantage of that promotion, is if you're using their labels. If you're buying your own labels using a third-party service like Pirate Ship, you don't get that benefit. So it took me like 2 or 3 days to edit off 500 of my listings and switch them over to Depop free shipping stuff. And I did also see an uptick in sales, just like I did with eBay when I made that switch, but then it started to kind of even out and slow down a little bit. I did see an ad on a YouTube video yesterday about free Depop shipping, so it took them a while to start getting the message out there. And in that ad, I didn't see an expiration date. They didn't say until the end of the year or anything like that. So I wonder if they're going to keep it this way, because it doesn't make sense for them to make a whole ad campaign about free shipping on Depop but not explain when it ends, unless they have it on like the fine details somewhere. But anyway, I am glad that I learned about it. I'm glad that I made the switch, and I'm glad that I'm able to offer that free shipping option to the buyers there on Depop now. Now, when it comes to Mercari, I got mad at this platform. I think it was like around the beginning of April, because in March I didn't make that many sales. In April, the beginning, I probably made like 1 or 2 sales in a week, and I thought, what's the point? So I just stopped listing on the platform altogether for about the 3rd or 4th time now. But at the end of May, in an effort to try to increase my sales as much as possible and end the month on a good note, I started relisting all of the, or not relisting, but cross-listing all of the items that hadn't made it to that platform yet, just so that I can try to get those items moving and try to increase my sales, as I said. And it seemed to work. So it's June, what right now? It's June 14th today, and I've made 6 sales so far, so double what I made in May. So that's really how I see myself using Mercari from here on out, just as an afterthought basically. If sales start to slow down there, then I'll just stop posting, and after like a month or 2 of not posting, I'll go in and start cross-listing 10 items a day of the items that have not sold on other platforms. So basically, Mercari is going to get the unsold inventory that hasn't sold on other platforms in about a month or 2. I'll start cross-listing 10 items a day, and that usually gets the algorithm moving, the momentum going there, and I start seeing a few sales. So that's how I'm going to treat it. And just because it only takes like 3 minutes for me to cross post 10 items, it's a super quick process using List Perfectly. So that's the only reason I'm not leaving it all together. And it's also very hands off. I don't do anything. I was going in and doing discounts and all kinds of things, but right now I'm not. I'm just going to be cross listing the items if they haven't sold on other platforms in a few months, and that's just how I'm going to use it, at least for now. So all in all, not a bad month at all. I feel like I'm really making some progress here, and I hope to get my business to what it once was, at least by the end of the year. I don't know what's going to happen this month though in June, because I wasn't as consistent as I was the past 2 months. I didn't source a lot this past week because I was having car troubles. I just bought a new battery, so it's back to working well again. So right after this video, I'm going to go sourcing again for about the 3rd time this week. I'm really trying to make up for time lost. So I'm going to be aggressively listing all these items and doing my relistings. And at the end of the month, probably running a few sales, at least 1 on each platform. So hopefully doing all of those things helps me get back up so that I don't end the month on a bad note. Hopefully I can at least maintain what I did in May. In the comments down below, let me know, how have sales been for you lately? Have you started to see the effects of summer slowdown? Let's talk about it down in the comments. I think the next time I will see you guys will be in a couple of weeks with another thrift haul. Make sure you're subscribed and that you hit that bell icon so you're notified when I post that new video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you in the next one.